Welcome to Insight at the New England Job Show, where we bring you the tools that you need to succeed in today's job market. I'm your host, Lisa McHugh, and joining us today is the Career Doc, Shelley Piper. Thank you for being a part of Insight, Shelley.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Now, as the Career Doc, your slogan is, "It's your future. Don't wing it, own it." Can you explain a little bit about this philosophy towards getting a new career?
Well, what I was realizing when I was working with individuals in their job search, a lot of them were approaching their job search through an old paradigm when it used to be a candidate-driven market. And they could just post their resume online on Monster and sit back and wait for the phone calls to ring, and they didn't really have to put a lot of preparation into their interview strategies. They could go about it was pretty simplistic before things started to shift and change dramatically in 2008.
Is your sense that that was happening because, as far as the response time, why weren't they getting interviews back, or they thought they could get the interviews quickly in the old days, and now?
It was a conditioned behavior that the majority of our society developed when it used to be a very different market. And that happens to all of us that used to work, but it doesn't work today. So therefore, just approaching your job search by winging it like you used to be able to do and be able to successfully line up opportunities, that's not going to work in today's market. And in order to be successful and to really drive your job search through to completion, you need to invest in owning and taking ownership into developing the skill sets to develop your marketing game.
Now, it all begins with clarity is a part, and you mentioned that on your website, in order to be effective, that you need to revolutionize. We hear that term a lot, not just in the job force, but kind of all over the world now. Everything's revolutionizing. Can you explain to our viewers where to begin? Where's the best way to start this revolution?
It can be really overwhelming, first of all. So I commend anybody for it if they're going to take on the challenge of stepping outside their comfort zone, that you can take it just step by step. And the places to revolutionize would be to, of course, develop a networking strategy, develop your interview strategy, really understand with the clarity, which I find to be so important to be successful, to develop the clarity of who you are, what you uniquely bring to the table, and how it aligns with employers' pain points in today's job market.
Now, you've mentioned aligning yourself with your unique value, that the UVP that you work with, the unique value proposition, and this is key to how you strengthen your job search strategy. Can you explain how this is?
Absolutely. And I think that it really comes from a lot of my years in having recruited and headhunted and to find talent for a lot of different companies and industries and hiring managers, and having reviewed thousands of resumes to identify specifically profile candidates for specific opportunities, that it's all about understanding your unique value proposition with performance metrics, with measurable results, what you uniquely bring to the table better than the competition does, and how to speak to that so it aligns with where they're struggling in today's market.
And you've mentioned the pain points. Now, this is in reference to the job that you're working towards getting. You want to know the company's pain points in order to approach them and be able to respond to say, this is what I have to offer your company. This is what I can do to help those pain points.
I use pain points because I think that a lot of companies are really struggling to stay solvent and to survive in this market. So I think it's a real dire need. If you can understand that sense of urgency and speak to that sense of urgency and how you can solve their problems, you'll be much more effective in differentiating yourself against the competition who's still winging their approach to the market. And so the pain points would be areas of revenues of potential revenue opportunity that they're not going after. Do they need to go from a domestic market and maybe branch out into more of an international market, because that's where the opportunity exists, since we're struggling so much here in the United States? Is that perhaps that they're struggling with their internal processes are very ineffective, and therefore they're paying out duplicate vendor payments? Perhaps they don't have a structure in place to really manage their projects. They have somebody who's ineffective right now. Their processes don't work. They don't have the tools to do that. Perhaps they're not using certain sorts of new technologies, like new social media technologies out there, strategies out there to cost effectively go after new markets. These are different pain points, and sometimes the companies are aware that they exist in their organization, and sometimes they're not. But if you can understand that within the industry, you can speak more powerfully to having a very dynamic dialogue with a hiring manager or someone who can get you in front of a hiring manager.
So then once you have the interview, then what you're explaining is that to bring that UVP or your own unique value proposition to the company, explaining how you could help fix those pain points?
Absolutely. And what I really wanted to do, to take this opportunity just to kind of quickly go through a recent client that I was working with,
Sure.
and how, and really it's so generic unless you can break it down to a specific couple of examples.
Well, generic, but also I guess I'm curious how a person would find that about a company. Where are you going to find a company's pain points? Because I would think they'd want to keep that kind of on the QT, you know, no, our company's fine, we don't have any problems.
Exactly. But that's more of in preparing your interview strategy. There's different techniques, and on the next segment, we'll show exactly how to kind of do, the interview workshop stresses different ideas on how to research and how to dig deep and how to find out what's going on behind the scenes, because it's not going to be broadcasted. You have to be kind of a sleuth and find out that and be better prepared for your interview. But that all starts at the foundation, which is building clarity and understanding who you are, what you uniquely bring to the table, and then down the road how that will align with the pain points. And some of the examples of how to really understand your unique value proposition would be with an individual I recently worked with who's an account manager, or he was an account manager. He's been actually unemployed for over a year now. And when I said, so tell me about your strengths, tell me about your recent position, he says, well, I'm very eager and I'm enthusiastic to solve clients' problems. That was my job, was maintain that relationship. And I said, that's very good. You're right. The fact that you are innately enthusiastic and eager differentiates you from other people who just consider it a job and, oh, I have to service the client. That's great, but let's take a deeper look. And what we found was some very specific gems that he has to work with. One of the areas that he did was in his recent position that he was in 2008 is that they were experiencing explosive growth. So when they brought him on board, they did not have a structured training program. They did not have structured mentoring or coaching, and he had absolutely no technical background. But he took on that challenge and he succeeded by developing his own strategy to understand all the technicalities and quickly ramping up, so that within 4 months they gave him about 6% of the company's revenues to manage, about $4 million worth, to manage these accounts because they trusted him. And that's a unique value proposition, because there are a lot of people who are coming from a structured training background, and that's all that they know. So they might, if I'm looking at your resume and if I'm talking to you and considering you for a position, that would be a unique value proposition to let me know what was going on.
Right, and without that, he may not have gotten the job. And so now that he's been
if I am hiring for an employer who has probably a very chaotic environment going on right now, they probably had to cut down on their training expense. They probably don't have as much support to train individuals. I'm going to tell you that I know that I am looking for someone who can handle that environment, who knows how to go about getting the information, ramping up and understanding my organization very quickly. I will choose someone with his background to come on board into my organization versus someone who has come from a structured training background, because they will probably not succeed in this environment. That's why it is a unique value proposition that differentiates him from someone who's coming from a structured training background.
Excellent.
And it really helps to strengthen his marketing position.
Thank you, Shelley, and that's why you are the career doc. You have all the...
Now, I'm just very passionate about helping people to understand how to market themselves, and they don't know. And I want to help them to understand. They've got so much to work with, and they don't realize how to differentiate themselves in the marketplace.
And if you'd like to get more information too, Shelley has all kinds of great ideas. All you have to do is go online. She has case studies and success stories and all kinds of things you can find at thecareerdoc.com. Also, there are workshops for you to join. And remember too, what she's explaining, that it's your future. Don't wing it, own it. Thank you once again, Shelley, for joining us.
Lisa.
I'm Lisa McHugh, and thank you for the New England Job Show's Insight. Thank you for watching, and we wish you success in your new career.